Hey, you beautiful people. Topher here. Today, we are going to talk about China and Taiwan and why China is likely to not invade Taiwan. At least not anytime soon. I don't think really ever. I don't think China wants to invade Taiwan. I say that China probably doesn't even want to attack Taiwan. It doesn't mean that they don't want to unify with Taiwan, but invading is a whole nother story. Let's get into it. Now, if I go into too much detail, which I can't because I'm out on a walk and I don't have all the numbers and paperwork in front of me, but if I did go into too much detail, then this video would be at least an hour long. I don't want this to be an hour-long video. So I'm just gonna be hitting on the major bullet points, okay? A little bit of background information. I used to be a soldier in the US Army. I have invaded a country before. I was in the Iraq invasion 20 years ago. So I know a little bit about invading places. A big thing we need to consider is geography. Taiwan is an island. That means that to invade the island, you need an amphibious assault. This is by far the most difficult type of military invasion. This is super hard. Usually when attacking a fortified, defended position, military analysts use about a 3-to-1 ratio, meaning that they need roughly 3 times as many attacking soldiers as there are defending soldiers. Now, in an amphibious assault, that's basically doubled. So, talking 6-to-1. Of course, this is just a rough estimate. On top of that, Taiwan's coastal terrain is not exactly great for landing craft. Now, a landing craft is the type of ship that's needed to land soldiers onto. To storm a beach, to attack a beach, you need landing craft. Taiwan has maybe, I think, 14 beaches which are suitable for landing craft, and they're surrounded by high point cliffs where defenders easily have the advantage to shoot down on any sort of attackers. So it's not exactly ideal for the attackers. Quite the opposite. The geography of Taiwan makes it a defender's dream and an attacker's nightmare. Even if a beachhead was secured, the attacking force would have to fight through dense urban areas and mountainous jungles, which are the 2 next hardest things to try and attack in. So it's very, very difficult scenario for any attacking force. In World War II, the US had drawn up plans to invade Taiwan while it was occupied by the Japanese, and they decided not to. The reason they decided not to was because they estimated it would take about 500,000 soldiers, 500,000 Marines, and in the process of invading, the force would take on about 150,000 casualties. So it just wasn't worth it. Now consider that those were estimates against a Japanese force of about 40,000 Japanese soldiers that were cut off from supply and starving. Currently, Taiwan is extremely well defended, and they have an active military of about 200,000 on the island. Plus, the Republic of China, Taiwan, has control of hundreds of little islands in between mainland China and the island of Taiwan. All these tiny islands are full of military personnel, which have been trained for the past 70 years to stop a Chinese invasion. All these tiny islands absolutely cannot be ignored by an invading force from the CCP. Let's chat a little bit about navies, the actual force involved. So, Taiwanese military is vastly outnumbered by the PLA. If you go by number of ships, the PLA has the largest navy in the world by quantity. However, most of those ships are small, short-range missile boats. And those types of ships, they are excellent for defending a coastline. With what we call open source intelligence, the PLA has enough landing craft, best estimate, to move about 70,000 soldiers, best case scenario. Now, about half of those landing craft were made 50 years ago. 50 years ago. So, not all of them are going to be moving. Additionally, these landing craft are not big, so they'd have to wait until the waters are generally calm, which I think is in April and May. And these landing craft are not particularly well defended, most of them. A single Harpoon missile, a single Tomahawk missile, a single UAV drone strike could disable or destroy these landing craft. Now, if we're talking landing craft that have been made in the past 20 years, China has the ability to move about 30,000 soldiers. Now, the low estimates to invade Taiwan require 1 million people, 1 million, which the CCP can muster for sure. But moving them is a whole nother story. So, the geography is vastly in Taiwan's favor, and the CCP don't have enough landing craft to properly make an invasion. It would take them quite a while to build the thousands that are needed to actually pull off an invasion. This would give everyone in the world a long heads up that the CCP was actually serious about invading Taiwan. But, of course, it doesn't end there. Every video that I've seen about the possibility of China invading Taiwan have failed to talk about the massive logistics involved in such an invasion. Now, this is not to be underestimated at all. Preparing all the equipment, all the maintenance equipment, all the maintenance on the ships, all the tanks, all the lines of communication, all of that, that would take years and years to prepare all this stuff. They would need to have a very strong logistical network. And China is not energy dependent, which means they have to import most of their oil. You know, that's the stuff that makes the ships go and the tanks move. So they have to import all the fuel that's needed for all their military craft. All their jets, all their tanks, all their ships, all that is fuel that is imported. And the vast majority of that fuel and other supplies are imported through a place in the world called the Straits of Malacca. The Strait of Malacca in the Indian Ocean. This is not a very big area, but a whole lot of the world's shipping goes right through these straits. It would be extremely easy for a US destroyer or a Japanese destroyer or a UK destroyer or a French destroyer to blockade off the Straits of Malacca from any Chinese supply, basically stopping the PLA and the CCP from getting the fuel that they need, amongst a bunch of other things, food. And remember how I said the CCP does have the world's largest Navy. The vast majority of that Navy can't reach the Straits of Malacca. And the parts of Chinese Navy that can reach it aren't all that impressive. This is called a blue water Navy, the ships that can go far beyond a country's borders. The U.S. has the largest blue water Navy in the world, and Japan has the second largest. And after that, it's the UK. That kind of leads us into a bit of geopolitics and economics. So, the geopolitics. Taiwan and the USA have a defense treaty. Even if they didn't, the US would defend Taiwan from a CCP invasion. The reason is because Taiwan makes most of the world's high-end semiconductors, microchips, computer chips. So anybody who's at all interested in advanced technology needs Taiwan. This is an industry that requires real specific knowledge, real specific parts. It cannot be easily reproduced elsewhere. The US is trying, other countries are trying, but they're finding it's much more challenging than they thought. So, anybody who is at all interested in technology would come to Taiwan's aid because they don't want to see those factories destroyed or under the control of the CCP. They want their high-end microchips. Now, to speak a little bit more about economy, the CCP is experiencing a pretty rough economic times as of late. China's economy is not doing great. At this time, it's on the verge of the biggest housing market bubble bursting in history. I mean, the problems with the Chinese economy would be like a series of videos all on its own, so I'm not going to get into too much detail about it here, but it's not looking great. Let's talk a little bit about politics. So the CCP and the PLA aren't exactly on the best of terms with each other. In recent months, there's been a lot of generals and other officers that have been arrested or suicide. So I don't think they're necessarily seeing eye to eye. It at least seems like there's a bit of a power struggle happening in China between the politicians and the military. That's not exactly a cohesive environment, which is what someone needs if they're going to plan a successful invasion. Now, we didn't even really talk about the military here, so we'll do that quickly. Yes, the Chinese Air Force is huge, the Chinese Navy is huge, but when you're talking about modern war, it's not ship to ship, it's not jet to jet. That's not how they're fought. It's missile to jet, missile to ship. In Taiwan, first off, they have their own anti-aircraft missile systems, and they are purchasing lots and lots of the best missile systems in the world from the United States. Now, some of you are probably saying, what about all the Chinese military exercises that have been happening? Well, these have all been responses to stuff they didn't like. Okay, that doesn't mean they're planning an invasion. So, Nancy Pelosi visits Taiwan, and the CCP decides to shoot a bunch of missiles over Taiwan. Okay, well, we expected a response, and they did basically what we expected. What you don't hear a lot about is how several of those missiles landed in Japanese waters. Yeah. And it took the CCP over a week to respond to the Japanese questions as to why they're shooting missiles into Japanese waters. Now, if the CCP intended to hit Japanese waters, then they would already have a response. They wouldn't have waited a week. Now, with all the aircraft carrier exercises that the CCP have done near Taiwan, they've shown that they are at a capability that is a fraction of a U.S. supercarrier. China has 2 aircraft carriers. The U.S. has 12 supercarriers. I guess basically what I'm saying is all the recent Chinese military exercises involving Taiwan have only shown that the PLA is not as impressive as they should be. All right, let's summarize. So, the geography is vastly in Taiwan's favor. The logistics are overwhelming. China doesn't have the right type of ships to make an invasion. The PLA's activities have not been all that impressive. Although they've been doing a lot of stuff, it's not exactly impressive. Taiwan has all the right allies and is crucial to anybody who cares about technology, which is everyone in the world who has money. China's economy isn't exactly healthy at the moment. It would be very easy for any of Taiwan's allies to completely cripple China's economy. Let's not forget that some of China's largest trading partners are the USA, Japan, Australia, the European Union, and even Taiwan. They would lose all that trade if they started a war with Taiwan. China has to import food to feed its people. They have to import oil and coal to keep the lights on, to keep the trucks moving. All that goes away if they start a war with Taiwan. So yeah, that basically sums it up, and I'm sure I missed several points. Let me know in the comments below what I missed, what I got wrong, what I got right. And I want to give a special thank you to all of you who have subscribed recently. It really helps out. I really appreciate it. All right, that's it for me today. Thanks a lot for watching. Let's hope that peace wins the day. It's a kind of a crazy world. It could be more peaceful. Peace, love. I'll see ya. Thanks.